All right, this week we are starting our first unit of the year. It is the colonial era, and our first topic of this unit is the lost colony. We're going to start by talking about this lady here. Her name is Queen Elizabeth I. In about mid 1500s is when she becomes queen, and she is taking over a throne in a country that is in truly dire economic straits. High poverty, high unemployment, and limited resources to take care of her subjects in a way that would keep them somewhat happy. And mainly, England is sort of fading internationally to countries like Portugal, the Netherlands, France, and Spain. Spain is probably the most powerful country during this time because it has worked to establish colonies in North, South, and Central America. Everybody remembers the story of Columbus sailing the ocean blue and finding the island of Hispaniola, which is the Dominican Republic in Haiti. But he found this in 1492, and between 1492 and the 1550s, so about 60 years there, Spain had spent enormous amounts of resources, time, treasure to defeat the empires of South and Central America. You know, the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayans, and they had created this colonial system that was benefiting Spain's economy. Things like gold, minerals, sugarcane, other resources that were being sent to Spain and then shipped elsewhere, and earning Spain enormous amounts of money. They would use that money obviously on their own economy and society, but they also used it on their military, which made them a much more powerful country. And they created one of the most powerful navies in history, known as the Spanish Armada. And Queen Elizabeth sees this not very far away over in England. And as you see in England, England is an island. It's limited with the amount of resources it has, and because of that, England's economy is basically leveled off. It cannot grow anymore. It has enormous burdens to pay for with the amount of poverty and unemployment in their country, and this is a problem. But Queen Elizabeth basically buys into this economic philosophy of the time known as mercantilism, and this is the idea that you want to increase exports and decrease imports. You want to sell more than you buy, basically. Okay, so in order to sell more, you're going to need more resources, and that's when she begins to look to the West, begins to look to the New World, and Walter Raleigh, who later becomes Sir Walter Raleigh, helps her see that. Okay, he is a wealthy businessman, an explorer, someone who is familiar with North America and its potential. And so he convinces her to allow himself and several other people from England to basically get on a ship and go create a settlement. Let's start off, and if it fails, it fails. But if it succeeds, we can begin to build our own network of colonies in America, in the New World. Okay, so they sail across the Atlantic Ocean here and land in Roanoke Island, which is modern-day North Carolina, if you're familiar with where that is. In 1585 is when they land there, and this is basically a failure. They didn't have enough supplies. They weren't prepared well enough for the wilderness and for the challenges they were going to face. So they end up going back to England, but then a couple years later come back. And they come back more prepared and create a settlement, something that they think can last. John White, though, is the leader of this group, not Walter Raleigh. And he goes back to England to get more supplies. He sees, okay, we're set up here. I'm going to go back, get more food, people, other supplies, building supplies we need to create our settlement here. So he goes back, but in the meantime, while he's there, the Royal Navy, which is England's navy and was the most powerful in the world before the Spanish Armada came in, begins to fight that Armada in a very famous naval battle, one that is on an epic scale during this time. Two world powers colliding. And England actually ends up defeating the Armada, which gives it sort of this new elevated status internationally. And after that fight, John White is safely allowed to come back to Roanoke Island. But it's 3 years later. So who knows what has happened to these people. He thinks he's going to return and it's just going to be this thriving society and they're going to have buildings built and it's going to be a fantastic place. And instead he comes back and no one is there. They've all disappeared. There's no trace of them. There's not huts left. There's not a fire burning somewhere. There's no, nothing. There's nothing left behind except this tree and a forest where they were, and it has the inscription Croatoan. And most of you are probably thinking in your head, what the heck does that mean? And that's exactly what John White said. He might use a few cuss words, but he was thinking, what what the heck? Where did these people go? We've spent all this money and all this time to get back, and no one's here, and they're never found. It's one of the biggest historical mysteries. No one knows where these people went, and John White, frustrated and kind of lost at a loss, says, "Well, let's just pack up our stuff and we'll go back to England, I guess." And what's significant about this, aside from this mystery, is that it took England another 20 years to build up the courage to try to create another settlement in America. Okay, so this is 1590. It's not until 1609, almost like I said, 20 years later, they were so scared, so defeated that no one dared to attempt it for quite some time. Okay, so today that's it for the video. If you have questions, let me know. But your assignment, you'll see the link there to complete it. So please do that, and let me know if you have any questions.